handle or motorcycle handle.
Yeah. Hey, we're back. This is Jeff Williams with Too Late for the Gods. I have a guest tonight, Ken Mulgave. We've had I hope some of you catch up with us here. We had a problem on the first link, and so we moved over here. And if you don't catch us live, you can always comment later on the replays. Um, Ken's an interesting guy. As you know, the couple thousand of you who've seen my Bernard Kastrup critiques know, and even more thousands who have read the transcripts on the blog. I'm not a big fan of Bernard Kastrup, and I've been inundated with conversations from his many followers. Yeah, his cult. And Ken is the first one who actually, wanted to come in and converse in public. I've been on private boards talking with people, lots of private conversations. I was on Kastrup's own board at Kastrup.com, and it took a turn Kastrup didn't like, and he now denounces the board. He's got nothing to do with it.
Pretty much poised to do that already. He was talking shit about the so that, I don't know if you knew this or not, but that's the second version of his forum.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, he kind of denounced the first version because of somebody who's a mutual friend between you and I. I don't know if we should mention his name, but you know who I'm talking about. He completely took a likening to you, and he's pretty much, to me, I think that guy, the one dude, starts with an A, ends with a Shavin, you know what I'm saying? Anyways, that guy right there, he kind of runs that whole show over there, and he totally disagrees with Kastrup, and Kastrup gets annoyed by that. And so
yeah, and I certainly didn't help things.
Right. And so yeah, it's interesting though that you and the dude over there on the forum hit it off so well, but are totally like in disagreement about.
Oh, I mean, who isn't in disagreement with me? I'd have no friends if I only was with the people who agreed with me.
Be able to talk to nobody, and that's the one thing that kind of worries me about this model that's so simple that it kind of includes it's just kind of wide open. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think. Well, can I just say something about it?
Well, please do. Yeah, you're the guest. You say whatever you want.
About what I don't like about the whole Kastrup idealism thing, and then I'll maybe that'll inspire some agreement between us. But one of the things I don't like is that it seems like almost all the comments under the videos are always, "Oh, thanks, this is so great, this is so inspiring," and there's never any really substantive pushback or
well, because I'm blocked. I mean, if you can substantively push back, he will block you really quickly.
Even if it's like stuff that maybe gets the model wrong or something, but it's like there's I get more out of talking to opponents of idealism than I do at first it started off, I got more out of reading the arguments between opponents of idealism and the guys who really understood the model real good. There was a couple of guys, I don't want to dox them or anything, but there was like three main people that would show up, and they had really, really well-spoken kind of in their own words of what the model was.
Yeah.
And we're always seeming to get the upper hand, and I appreciated it. It helped, like reading those arguments helped me to understand the model better. You know what I mean? Because it is. I think one of the things that makes it hard is our paradigm. We're children of the age. You know what I mean? Like so we get hit with all this stuff that we get buried under these abstract ideas and thoughts, so that it makes it difficult to get back to the bare essence of it. You know what I mean? Like the only thing that could be argued that we know for sure, which is that we're conscious. Like before we even learn how to talk or learn how to, learn what knowledge is, all we know is that we're alive. You know what I mean? And I think there's just this kind of, I don't know, I guess it would be called it's a paradigm for sure. We're in the materialist paradigm, but I think there's a switch to something else. And I'm not sure if idealism is the best thing.
Yeah, I mean, as I've told you
about the energy thing, That's pretty interesting. I have a lot of stuff to say about energy, but I'd rather hear what you have to say. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Also, I know you've got a bunch of questions for me, and we
Yeah.
should go through those too. Um, you're right that we need a whole new way of thinking reality. There's no question about that. To go a little deeper into that, the age of metaphysics and the gods is over.
Right.
It's over. And, I have a very Heideggerian perspective on things. And Heidegger says we are transitioning out of the age of metaphysics toward a thinking of being.
Right.
But we don't even know how to do that yet. It's extraordinarily difficult, and we're in a dangerous time. We're floating with nothing. If you think of, I don't know if you've read, Nietzsche's Zarathustra.
No,
but
I've heard about it. Yeah.
Oh, it's a fantastic book.
It's an allegory, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
It's poetic philosophy, but in that and in the Gay Science, section 125, the madman comes and announces the death of God, and we killed him. By we, he means the Enlightenment,
right?
And
the pragmatic terms and everything.
Yeah, he's dead, and now we have no grounds, and it was completely he was completely overtaken with vertigo. Can't tell up or down or anything. And that's the situation we're in right now. We're in that vertigo, or what Heidegger calls the time of destitution. We're groundless. The old ground proved to be false. It's gone. We don't know how to attach it to the new ground. And as I said to you before, there are two dangers that we face right now. One of them is to retreat back to the comfortable falsity of God and metaphysics.
Yeah.
And that's what Kastrup is doing. That's what he's selling to people. What he actually really believes, who knows? But that's his grift. And there are others selling that same thing. Or
is it really a return to metaphysics if we just admit that every model is a mental model? I mean, that's basically idealism stripped to its most.
Yes, that all. If you're looking for a model, you're looking for metaphysics. Stop looking for models. The other danger.
But are models more amenable to change than beliefs, than dogmatic beliefs?
Oh, well, you don't want those either. The other danger, that was the first danger, is retreating back to God and metaphysics. The other danger is succumbing to nihilism. And that's basically what you see today. People are either clinging backwards or they're becoming very nihilistic.
My mom
I'm sorry, go ahead.
1 foot in the past, 1 foot in the future, pissing on the present. I know you've heard that before.
Yeah. So
that's a fight too. They're like, dude, you got to be focused right now with what's going on. Don't be paying attention to all this other crap.
Exactly. That's right. But that is right. And right now, we're in a total upheaval, and it's not just from that perspective. Last century in quantum mechanics turned everything on its head. But the one thing that we do know is the physical world exists. It's there. We're part of it. We're not. Metaphysics had us apart from it. We were the subject. The rest of the universe was the object, and it's a subject-object dualism that is false. We're part of the universe. We're quantum beings, just like everything else. We're entangled with this universe.
I didn't really see it as a subject-object dualism so much as a kind of extreme subjectivism. Using what we feel, what we're born into, which Casper uses the pilot, in a cockpit metaphor, which is pretty good. It seems like physicalism takes the dashboard to be all there is. That's as much as we get. And
no.
Idealism says no. The dashboard is a re-representation of something else.
And I agree with that. But first, let me address the subject-object
interrupt.
dualism in Castrop.
Okay.
Everything that the dashboard is the object, and that's how we see the world, but that's not the world. It's apart from us. And then there was the subjectivity, which was our attachment to cosmic consciousness. So he maintains the metaphysical subject object duality, where being is in this other immaterial transcendental realm. That is, in fact, the essence of metaphysics. Metaphysics, as Heidegger pointed out, it started at the time of Socrates, when A is A, transformed to A equals A. A is being, and being is right here. When you go to metaphysics, the is disappears. Is being. It disappears to a transcendental realm. We don't know it, and all we're reduced to here are beings, ungrounded beings.
Is metaphysics like the claim of what underlies the physical?
But
what if there is no physical? There is no metaphysical then. All we have is the metamental, right?
But there's that would be a very strange. What you have then is all you have is metaphysics. You don't have physics. Before A is A, switch to A equals A, you had what the Greek word was physis, which is it encompasses everything, all the mystery, all the underlying within this. What we can experience. I'm sorry.
What you just described is what I'm hearing idealism do.
No.
What you just explained?
Yeah, I'm going to explain how that's different. Okay.
I don't see a subject-object dualism, not at all.
When you look at your body, when you look at your brain, you see the object.
And the thing that twisted me about all of this was my near-death experience. I used to be pretty much a diehard, materialist pragmatist until that crazy stuff happened to me, and it was really crazy. I mean, it was so crazy. Did you get a chance to watch the? I'm
afraid I didn't, but I have looked into a lot of information on NDE for a long time.
All the popular claims. Hers is kind of the most grounded in empiricism, like empirical thinking, and the way we talk about the world in colloquial terms. It isn't really new agey at all. I just like her presentation, and the way she described how it happened is exactly how it happened for me. I went from being unconscious to just popping into this other realm, and I was just there, and I could hear this noise, and everything was velvety smooth. Like, it was weird. Instead of the dashboard, I got a whole new set of 360-degree spherical senses, kind of thing, and I kind of became like a ball instead of a body. I still had a sense of having hands and arms and legs, but no, I couldn't see them. You know what I mean? It was bizarre. It was very bizarre. I can't stress. Like, I wish I could just impart this onto people.
On the other hand, what you're describing isn't all that dissimilar to what I have experienced on psychedelics or through meditation.
Which makes sense, because psychedelics decreases brain activity, which is like the death of the brain. I mean, right?
Well, actually, I don't know if you saw there are two very recent, within the last few months, studies, one from Israel, one from, I think, New York, where they have actually observed a dying brain shutting down. And the parts of the brains that are activated actually correspond to what you would predict from stories of NDEs. And that would suggest that, you're really experiencing that. I don't doubt that for a second. But what you're experiencing is more a function of the brain going through its shutdown, similar to on a psychedelic, you lose the executive function.
I was in rigor mortis. People were digging a hole to bury my body.
As it also turns out, your brain doesn't die immediately.
I don't know if you just heard what I said.
Yes.
But I was in the backyard of a house, and these people were panicking with what they were going to do with my body. I was chalk white, blue, and hovering above my body. I could look at my corpse, and I was kind of hovering, looking at it.
And I don't doubt any of
All of
that.
them try to dress me. They took my normal clothes off and put a hoodie over me, and my arms were stiff, cold. She had to like, like I was dead. My body was straight up dead.
And
Not
what
breathing, not anything.
right, right. No, I understand that. I do understand that.
Yeah, that's just
In these studies, these people had been dead also. They were dead and dead past the clinical point,
like
and
what
their
I just
brains were still shutting down.
my family doesn't even know what I just told you. That
Well, I wouldn't say it either. Yeah, it's scary.
Now
It's
it's
very
on
scary.
YouTube. That's all right. I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm just so like over being judgmental about it, and I don't even try to argue with people about it anymore, because chances are,
no, I understand.
medicine is nowadays, it's going to happen to just about anybody anyways. Before we finally die, someone's going to have an NDE. And the other thing I was going to maybe mention, I don't know if you've ever tried this, but there's ways you can induce an outer body experience just through certain techniques. They're called astral projection, or
Well, I do it through meditation.
you can do it through meditation, but I mean, there's like real I don't know what you would call them. The words are escaping me, but this is like you can go and open up books and look in them in astral form. You can go to shopping centers and check for stuff to see if it's in stock. You could go to Andromeda if you know how to do it.
I've heard about astral travel. I certainly have never done that.
I've never gone further than out of my room that I'm in, because I'm just too scared. There's too many other weird things going on around me. That's another thing. After my NDE, I got opened up to this kind of stuff, more easier. I got hit head on a motorcycle, and I immediately popped out of my body and was hovering above the whole scene. Felt like I was up there for weeks, and I was only up there for a few seconds. It was super strange. I was able to feel what the driver was feeling. He thought he had run me clean over because he didn't see any body in front of his car, just a crumpled motorcycle. And it when I popped back into my body, it gave me more like empathy for him, instead of being angry that he destroyed my bike and almost killed me. Like, it was crazy. Like, I was like, "Nah, you're good, dude. Don't worry."
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell just happened.
No, I'm open to all kinds of things in that realm. I mean, we don't consciousness. I believe consciousness is purely physical, but
to me that just.
But no, let me finish.
That's
we have to think what the physical is, and that's one of Kastrup's problems. Is he defines physicality to exclude too much, but
he describes it 2 ways. One way is a subject, what we see is physical, and then what he defaults to deny physicalism is the way traditional materialism uses the term.
Right, but
devoid of qualities.
But that's not. But we know. I mean, physicists know that that's not the basis. That when you go to the quantum field level, none of that exists. Okay, but it's still physical. We have energy.
Well, no, I thought naive realism has been ruled out. It's off the table.
Oh, I'm not talking about naive realism.
Well, naive realism is the idea that physical properties exist before they're observed, right?
Yeah, but that's not what I'm talking about. Physicists know that they don't. The Liggett inequalities prove that.
Spatially, temporally bound and objectively able to be held is there.
Yes, but that's emergent. That doesn't exist.
Of 2 collisions of a particle that they're measuring, and then the particle they use as an observer is a metaphorical particle. It's not a physical, spatially, temporally bound thing.
Well, it's in between. Let me reset that.
You know what I mean?
Well, it is a metaphor, but let me kind of reset that a little bit from a physicalist point of view.
I've always understood that. I mean, that's why I never quite understood or challenged materialism, as I thought it was just all of.
But we confuse things when we say materialism instead of physicalism,
well,
and I don't. They're 2 different things.
Let's be real.
Physical. I'm sorry. Say it again.
It's just semantics.
It's not. Let me explain it.
There's literally no more explanatory power in a materialist explanation of consciousness than there is a physicalist consciousness.
Let me tell you how. Okay. Matter is emergent. We don't get material until the Higgs field interacts with another field. Prior to that, or prior to wave collapse, there is energy exists. There are these fields. There are these oscillations, but they don't have the properties of things yet. That only comes about. It emerges through the interplay of the waves of the quantum fields and our observation of it. But it's still physical.
No, the word wave is still a metaphor. Everything that we get in the experiments is on
forget the wave.
Even the word energy is so ubiquitous, so much of a catch-all in such debate. They don't know whether it's energy that's primary or the field and the excitations that causes the energy. I mean, these are all things that are just like up.
But we know that energy is the most elementary thing that we know of. We can define it, we can measure it, we can feel it. And that's as far as we can go.
Yeah,
but it's physical. Energy is physical.
Yeah, but when you say physical, you're talking about qualitatively physical, which is mental. You're already,
no. You're wrong. You can do that. But you don't experience it that way.
This is a simple question. In what way is physicality distinct from the mental?
Mental is physical. Mental is energy.
If you make that move, you're an idealist or a
no, absolutely not, because most energy does not have consciousness, but consciousness emerges out of energy.
What is most energy does not have consciousness? How do you know that?
Because I have no reason to think it is. I have never seen any evidence of consciousness outside of a living being.
That's begging the question.
No, it's not.
You're literally.
You would have to show me where this consciousness is.
You're literally begging the question of a physical explanatory model to say that that's all there is.
That's all we know of. That's as elemental as we can get. First of all, I want to be very careful. I never say that's all there is. Right. We don't know that. We've gone so far, and we're now in a realm that we can't even conceptualize.
So what you're doing is you're inferring physical causation to conclude that all we know of is physical causation. That's still begging the question.
No, it isn't. You can't show me something that we know.
I don't need to.
Doesn't. Yes, you do. Otherwise, there's no reason to accept it.
That's not true. Every ontology starts off with an unfalsifiable inference. Even physicalism is unfalsifiable. It's not science. It's an ontology. It's an ontological disposition. It is not testable. That's what unfalsifiable means.
I've been trying to say this a couple times. Let me say it. You have somewhat of a naive concept of physicalism. There are different kinds of physicalism.
Make me a physicalist.
I don't mean to do that, but I will explain where I'm coming from.
Yeah, and you're begging questions and making.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Because we have experience of energy. We have experience of energy.
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about touch a stove, you'll feel heat energy.
That's a description of a qualitative event.
No. You're confusing the initial sensation with the interpretation. They're two separate things.
Okay,
you can't quantify, you can conceptualize, but that's not how you feel it.
I asked the question, in which way is physicality distinct from mentality? You said it isn't.
No.
What Idealism says. So my next question is...
No, you're misconstruing what I said.
What could we possibly know of that's non-mental, ever?
The computer in front of me. Dude, it's right there. The microphone you're talking through.
It's literally in your mind if you're experiencing it, is it not?
Doesn't mean that it is experiencing anything.
I didn't say that. I said non-mental as a category, not non-mental like that thing isn't conscious. That's not. I'm asking like categorically, what can we ever know of that's non-mental?
Well, that's a funny question. Let me finish. You keep cutting me off.
Well, because all
let me answer the question. Right? Let me answer the question. Right. Consciousness is a conduit for us. We don't know consciousness. No. Let me finish answering, please.
All right.
Consciousness. You don't know what consciousness is. No one knows what consciousness is, but we know things through consciousness. If that weren't the case, if you were to say all I know is my consciousness, then you're completely solipsistic. You've got no way out of that. You know nothing except that you're conscious.
That's solipsism.
Yeah, and that's, but it's also an absurdity. If you think it's not,
Right.
try writing. If you've ever read a Shakespeare play, try writing one. Because if it's pure solipsism, you wrote it.
Right.
Write another one, show it to me.
I didn't write that.
I know you didn't.
Enough.
Which right there refutes solipsism. That means we know things outside of our own consciousness. We know it through consciousness, but we don't know it as consciousness. You don't even know what consciousness is.
There's nothing that's outside of consciousness.
Oh, sure there is.
Well,
everything.
Well, here's the thing, Jeff. Outside of infers a spatial temporal location for consciousness, does it not? Like if I say my motorcycle is outside of my house, that means it's not inside my house. So if you say that something is outside of consciousness, you are by implication saying that consciousness is inside of something. So where is our consciousness then? Inside of our skull?
No.
Then what is
again, you're that's the subject-object metaphysics. Consciousness.
These are questions I'm asking you to.
Well, if you let me answer it,
all right.
Please let me answer it.
All right.
It's partly inside of our skull, but it doesn't reside inside of our skull. It is an entanglement, just like everything else is an entanglement. And my guess is, as they look at quantum mind, we will start to get a better understanding of how that works. Penrose and Hameroff have a pretty good theory on that now. Where kind of like consciousness is an entanglement, and it's that entanglement that collapses the wavelengths, the quantum waves, so that the wave, it collapses the wave function so that it appears as just one of the possibilities to us. But that's an entanglement. Where does consciousness reside? It resides in that entanglement. But that entanglement requires a mind, a living being to entangle with something. There's no evidence that there's anything like consciousness if a stone entangles with a tire or something. I mean, there's no reason to think there's any consciousness there.
Hold on. No. So nobody is saying that consciousness, the way we experience it, is in the world. What the claim that this is the other reason why I was wanting you to steal man, the idealist argument, because it becomes clear that like you and I have one pair of binoculars, and I'm looking through and seeing something, and then you're looking through and seeing something totally different. And I was hoping we could find a way where we're looking at the same argument, because what it sounds like you're objecting to is something completely different than what I'm looking at. You know what I mean?
Well, tell me that difference.
The difference between.
Yeah, what's the difference between what I'm looking at and what you're looking at?
Well, from what I can tell, it sounds like you think that idealism is dualism.
It is.
No, it's not.
Oh, it is.
It's an ontologically single event called transpersonal awareness.
On the metaphysical side, but there is an objective side that we see in the dashboard.
So here's the part about here's the thing that you call a giant leap that is not as big of a leap as physicalism makes. So the leap that idealism makes goes from our personal consciousness to agreeing that there are other conscious agents in the world. We can agree that much, right?
There's sure, absolutely.
Other people. And then consciousness says, well, if it's a force that's there coming through me, and it's a force that appears through other beings, it might be there from the get-go. It just might be. And the universe as a whole might be experiencing itself in different dissociated aspects.
And that's where we retreat to metaphysics.
Well,
I absolutely deny.
There's an empirical argument for idealism too. Every ontology starts in the modeler's mind.
Every metaphysical one does. Every reductive one does. Modeling itself does. But why are you limiting yourself to models?
No, well, physicalism is a model.
Not,
We don't have
not, no,
empirical proof
wait.
of
See,
physicalism.
that's one of the questions you have not let me answer. Please
Go.
give me a minute.
Go
Okay.
ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
There are different types of physicalism. And
Here's
if you're talking,
non-reductive.
if you please let me finish.
All right.
If you're talking about reductive scientific physicalism, yes, you're right. But there's non-reductive physicalism, which I adhere to, where models are just sort of a tool, a metaphysical tool that has some practical value. It's never going to give you anything like truth. I don't look to models. I don't look to systems.
So what's the ground floor? When you say the physical in your non-reductive physicalist model, what's the ground floor? You say the physical.
Yeah, well, the ground floor from what we can know right now is energy. Everything that we can experience or
What
observe
what is an
has energy
ontological
prior to it.
what is an ontological model? How does an ontological model work from so you're just dispensing with ontology altogether and just sticking with the behavioral claims? Is that what
No,
I'm hearing?
absolutely not.
Because
Ontology is my primary,
well, energy is the
but
behavior
we're
claim. It's
thinking
not an
ontology very
not
differently.
it's not an ontological thing. Energy is a catch-all phrase we
No,
use to
that is absolutely false.
you can't hold energy in your hand.
Oh, you can.
You can't weigh energy.
Oh, you can't. Well, you can't
No,
weigh it, but you can
no.
certainly
So
measure it. It doesn't
can
have
I just
mass, so
try to
you
say
can't
what
weigh
I'm
it.
hearing
It's
when I'm
prior to
say what
mass.
I'm
You
can I
can
just try to explain to you
you
what I'm
can
hearing?
also turn energy. You know that you can
Jeff,
turn energy into mass, right?
can I
And you can turn
explain?
mass into energy.
Look,
You do know
I
that.
agree with all that, and none of that contradicts a mind-only ontology, by the way, because a
Well, it
mind-only
certainly
ontology does not
contradicts
see.
your
Now you won't
statement
let
that
me
it
talk.
isn't something real.
So you're not going to let me finish an idea here. Can I just finish one idea?
Sure.
This thing about energy is conscious, or energy is consciousness. It is either semantically devoid of any meaning because energy is such a ubiquitous term. There's even debates in science about what it is and like how it happens, or you're literally begging the question of a behavior to infer it in the essence of nature. This is a cross contamination of two different fields of of our knowledge. It's literally an epistemic reversal with an appeal to ignorance to try to explain the ontological basis of reality. And to me, that is the problem. That is the fundamental.
What?
Hold on, let me finish. Hold on, let me finish. That is the fundamental problem with anything you do where you point to something else to say that consciousness is, and you go to point. You're literally then taking an abstract in consciousness to explain it as the thing in and of itself, which is just silly. It's the same mistake being made, except now you've gone from physical to the word energy. It's the same process. You're trying to pull the territory out of the map. Energy is not an entity. It is a process. Do you understand?
No, it's not a process. It's a
process.
fundamental. It's a fundamental force of nature. It is
Well,
not
if
a
you say it's a
process.
force, you're just rewording
No,
process.
no, no. You're just simply trying to reject the words that
No,
describe it.
what you want to
Let me.
do, what you want to
First
do,
of all, what you have just
what you want to do
described
is
in no
do what
way
Philip Goff
describes
did
my
and
position.
just impute these brute facts that we observe while we're conscious to be all there is to consciousness. It's
No,
just
I've never
bullshit.
said that. Never have I said that. I
Well,
don't know what
you're doing the
consciousness
same
is,
thing
nor do
Philip Goff
you.
does.
I do know that without energy, consciousness disappears. I know that. But I
Dude,
can't tell you what.
begging the question of physical causation for consciousness.
No,
Literally
no,
begging the
no, no,
question.
no, no.
Yes,
Emergence
you
isn't
are. It's the
causation.
same thing as your
Emerge.
first
You're
aphorism.
confusing
The same
emergence
thing as
with
Jerry Coyne
causation.
was trying to say. Jerry Coyne was trying to say that we know consciousness wasn't around because we have a fossil records that shows when life arose.
Why are you bringing? That's not my argument at
That's
all.
your first aphorism on your website. Your first aphorism literally says something about like we know consciousness arose from life. No, we don't.
On my
What we know is
website,
your
I never
blog
said anything like that. I have no clue
on your
what you're
blog.
talking about.
On your blog, you have a link, a hyperlink at the top of the page where it says aphorisms. And if you tap that link and go to the aphorisms, the number one aphorism, I think it used to be number 3, but you moved it to the number 1. It's literally begs the question of physical causation to infer physical causation.
I'm going to it right now because I think you're confusing something really badly here.
Read the number one aphorism. That was the thing. So I
I'm going.
actually had
I'm good. Wait, I'm going right now.
I had an actual plan on how I wanted to go about doing this, and I was either going to have you steel man the model, or we could not call it a model. We'll just call it an ontology. How about that? We'll
Well,
steel
it's not
man.
an ontology either.
Well, it is. It's one of the top vying analytical idealism is one of the top ontologies being considered today by a lot of serious.
Well, I don't know.
They're revisiting it. I know you
I,
consider it metaphysics, but I consider it metamentation, to be honest, because there's no such thing as the physical in a standalone state as objectively real. You know what I mean? Physicality is what we get on this side of the dashboard. You see the number one aphorism there? Says something about we know consciousness is
I don't know how that even got there. Honestly, I don't know what that is.
Well,
Does the unit
that's
separate
the
from
begging
our
of the
consciousness?
question.
At one time it did. I don't know where that comes from. But anyway, I honestly.
I think here. Can I also say something too, just to kind of break up the
Yeah.
I think you're an idealist, but in denial of.
Oh, then you don't understand what I'm saying.
Because you remind me so much of this other guy on YouTube named Eclectic Meat. Well, I shouldn't dox him. I'm kind of doxing him, but he's a wonderful guy. He has a great channel. He is another one. And believe it or not, he was the guy who turned me on to Castro. Like, if I could tell the story real quick of how I.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I had my NDE, and then I suffered years just with the kind of like a pseudo depression of just not being able to tell anybody about it.
Yeah, right.
Because, nobody's going to believe that unless they go through it themselves. And then I stumbled upon this 5-video workshop on YouTube. They've since taken it down. It was called the Holographic Universe Workshop. It was this guy, Stephen Davis. He narrated 5 videos that were a basic breakdown for layman's ears of how quantum physics works, how we know that consciousness is fundamental. And it had like Amit Goswami. So the 5-video holographic workshop thing was it could go either way, like either to physicalism or idealism, depending on how you interpreted it. And then from that, I got on YouTube and I put in the search engine, consciousness is not, or I put consciousness is not fundamental, and Eclectic Media's video came up at the top. And I clicked on his video, and that's how I found out about Castro, was through Eclectic Media. And then, I was just like confused. I was like, wait a minute. He sounds like when I finally found out what Castro was saying, and I went back and revisited the Eclectic Media video, I realized that Eclectic Media was saying the same thing as Castro, but just couched in his own kind of terms.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, Eclectic Media is an idealist. And so my earnest feeling is that we're all idealists. Just some of us are in more denial of it than others. And idealism is just the bare bones kind of tautological position. And that's why people don't like it, especially analytical thinkers and people who are kind of like, they want more meat on the bones than just a tautology. And idealism just seems so question begging or circular, just by sticking in mind to, say that that's all there is, because this is how we come packed from the get. I understand all that, but I thought it was clever how Castro took and made it a category of mentation to account for our personal consciousness, and he gets rid of the hard problem, and he kind of opens up science to take some of these other things serious, like UFOs and psi phenomenon. That's another thing I wanted to ask you about, because I bet you your answer will be yes. Is that you've had either like an accident, a drowning, or some experience where you almost died in your life?
No, I never have.
You've never had anything like that? You come real close to death?
Never.
Not even on a motorcycle? Really?
Oh, no. I've never come close to death.
You've never gone down on a bike or nothing like that?
I've gone down twice. Had a broken leg once. But I was never close. I never even lost consciousness either time.
I had this other theory bopping around in my head, is that the people who are in this realm are people who've died in prior realms, and they're just here to complete their mission, complete their knowledge. It's stupid, kind of new agey woo, but it's always been this little thing. Like maybe we've all died one time before, and we're all here to kind of argue and learn, and I don't know.
I think we're here to argue and learn, but I
Yeah.
don't know about, I mean, I don't think I've lived
I want to
before.
see what you see. That's the thing too that eclectic media never really got me to see, and because I guess I just wasn't asking the right questions or something. I want to see what you see. I hate it that I can't see what someone else sees. You know what I mean?
Well,
I want to
let me
see it for
finish my
myself.
answers.
Okay, go ahead. And I just the other thing I wanted to tell you is
Yeah,
you have a
ask it. Go.
vastly more wealth, more like you have a vastly more expansive knowledge about actual philosophy than I do. I mean, you can tell. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. I mean, I'm sitting here, throwing out the one-liners that seem to defeat the YouTube comments, but you know, I would rather sit here and listen to you, honestly. So to the viewers too, I apologize for my hubris and talking over Jeff and everything else. All right, sorry, I'll listen.
Okay, maybe this is the time. Ask some questions because I'm not even sure where
So
to go from here.
okay, so I guess one of my number one questions, honestly, was I don't know if you remember the guy down in the comments. His name was Numero 999.
Yeah, I remember him.
I'm not positive about this, but I have reason to believe that is Castro. That's Castro himself.
Oh, I suspected that also.
That guy there has a Brazilian account, and I think the guy who actually owns the account might be his older brother or younger brother or something. And I think Castro uses that.
I thought so too.
But
He
I can't
won't
be sure.
confront me. He won't put his own reputation on the line and confront me under his name. He insinuates things,
Well,
but
like I said, I don't know for sure it is, but I suspect because
I had this. I mean, I don't know for sure it is either. I can't say for sure,
can I tell
but
you
that
what
thought
I
occurred to me. Yeah.
can I tell you why I think Castro won't argue with you? Is he doesn't want to argue with people um, who don't like understand the basics of his model or don't
But I
seem to
do
understand.
understand the basics. I
Well,
absolutely
I don't know.
understand them.
That's something I'm still not clear on because
Well,
you've
ask
not.
away. Probe that.
So one of the things I had planned was I had the list of the most common objections to a mind only ontology. I call it a model. I call any new way of thinking about the world a model.
His
You know,
is a model. Okay. I don't have a model, but he
and
does.
then we
Yeah.
test it. We try to apply it in our lives. If it doesn't work or it backfires or something weird happens, then we just discard it and move on to something different. And so there's a chapter, and do you have his book? Not the Why Materialism is Baloney book, but the Idea of the World. Do you have that?
I have. I don't have it, but I have read much of it.
Okay, so in one of the best chapters in the book is refuting objections, and at the
Hmm.
end of the chapter, he summarizes the most common objections. There's like 8 or 9 of them, and what I wanted to do was go down each one of them and kind of like see what you thought of that. If you thought it was irrational, the way like
Okay, let's do that.
Okay, so let's see. The problem is, well, so that was one of my plans, I should say, but I didn't ever get my junk together to print that off. I wrote it in
Okay.
note. I copied it verbatim in notes. I just went back and forth between my Kindle copy and like wrote it over in notes, but I never printed it off. But instead, I sent you like a list of questions.
Yes, you did.
Weirdest thing that's ever happened to you. Has anything weird or paranormal ever happened to you ever?
Not that I can.
No,
Not that I can really say was paranormal. I had a strange dream,
Ooh,
very odd dream
so did a
when my
clip.
wife's father died.
Mm-hmm. Came to you in
He
a
was a
dream.
very wealthy and powerful man with a lot of enemies,
Ooh.
um, including his partners. And when he died, he was accused of dishonesty
Oh
and
no.
stealing from the firm, which I think was an attempt really to get money out of the estate. But
Right.
anyway, I had this dream, and it was the weirdest dream because it was so real
Right.
that he was I was at a desk and he was at the other side of it, and
Mm-hmm.
he didn't say a word, but he was showing me in the paperwork exactly where they were lying.
I see. Wow.
Now, I mean, that could have just been a dream, but I've never forgotten it, and before
And
or since had a
did you
dream
were,
anything like that.
were you able to get to that paperwork and see?
No,
Or
no, I couldn't. I was
oh
never able to verify it.
damn. Okay, and
No.
then the other thing I wanted to ask you, this is really my number one thing that I wanted to ask you, because Numero brought it up, Numero 999, and it blew my mind. I never even thought about that.
Mm-hmm.
He said something like, here, I actually copied it down because it was, okay, here's what he said. The set of natural laws is a logical axiomatic system. It cannot be both consistent and complete. Therefore, either the scientific method is fundamentally unreliable for determining the truth, or there are true propositions about reality that cannot be proven within the axiomatic system of the natural laws. In short, unless the natural sciences are inherently bunk, it's a logical necessity that there exists something outside their scope, literally supernatural.
I agree with everything until you get to supernatural.
Well, let's talk about that. Why do you jump off at the last second? I never,
because there's
like you seem so much like an idealist to me. You seem
I'm not
attitude,
at all.
You got the aura, the chip. I don't know what it is, but like if I saw you in a crowd, I'd be like, that motherfucker right there is an idealist.
No, but I'm a non-reductive physicalist. Let me explain what that is, because I've not been able to get that idea across to you yet. The real split, I believe, is not between the physical and the immaterial. That I don't believe such a split exists, but physicality exists way beyond our evolved cognitive abilities. We evolved in the savannah to be able to make some predictions so that we could catch our prey and avoid our predators. It reduces it. There's a lot of reduction in our thinking, but it reduces reality to just a few things.
Right.
And we only know those things through the categories of the understanding, which is basically, it's reason, logic,
right,
and time and space, none of which really exist.
Right.
The physical world doesn't exist that way. It's our way of simplifying things, like Hoffman's dashboard.
Right.
And he's absolutely right about that. But I mean, we've known that since Kant. But that's absolutely true. But what goes beyond what we conceive is not supernatural. It's not immaterial. It's the physical world the way it really is. In the 20th century, science hit a crisis. And let me explain that in several ways, because it's multidimensional. But first of all, we had quantum mechanics. And suddenly we had evidence of a realm of reality that we can't grasp. 100 years later, we still don't have any understanding or an interpretation of quantum mechanics, because there is no time. Rovelli is fantastic.
Yeah, I like him too.
He is, but he knows enough not to go into the metaphysics. But let me finish. Okay. In the quantum realm, there's no time, there's no space, there's no determinacy. That means our capacity to objectify the world has no relationship to the quantum realm. It's physical, it's really there, and we can't understand it. 100 years later, we still don't understand it because please let me finish. Then do it.
But I just wanted to say, I just wanted to make sure I'm tracking, because I went off the tracks. So when you said it's physical, you mean like we can experience it through detection and measurement? Mm-hmm. That's what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay, it's there. It's really stuff that's there.
That's what Kastrup says too. I mean, that's why I'm trying to see where you guys differ. You're at first I thought you were like Tom. Did you see the Tom Frake interview? It was amazing.
Yeah. I have over and over tried to tell you I am not a reductive physicalist.
Right.
I'm a non-reductive physicalist.
So what I consider to be reductive is the minute you go from a thought to putting this stuff out on words, that's already a reductive step, is it?
Oh boy, is that a complicated? I don't know that we got time to go into that. I would say, I mean, 99% of the time, yes, that's true.
That's why when you say
but not always. Aesthetic knowledge, poetic thought is not that way at all, because you don't you oh, that's a whole big subject.
Yeah, but doesn't aesthetic knowledge depend on space and time though? You know?
Because we can't get out of it. But that gets to the point I was about to make. Okay, just
Okay.
let me finish making
Yeah,
this
but
point.
so I'm gonna put that word physical on placeholder for a minute to
Okay.
mean being
Physical, to me, physical is what exists, but not necessarily how we objectify it.
right.
With the stuff that's
With
not
that,
on the dashboard, it's
I could
physical.
agree with that all
And
the way.
that's what Ravelli's about too. Let me just kind of summarize Ravelli real quick. To him, the most elemental thing we know are quantum fields and the waves in quantum fields. And these fields churn up spin foam. Some people call it cosmic foam. Those who deal in quantum loop gravity call it spin foam. But those are all the particles and the antiparticles coming in existence and then going. It's foam. It's the stuff. It's the stuff of everything that we're going to ever experience. Okay, but it's all physical. But there's no time. There's no space. There's no causality. And
so when you say all physical,
but let me finish, because I got to get to that point. But even when we think of it as a quantum waves in a quantum field, as you said before, that's a metaphor. It's a metaphor, and it's a metaphor that a field depends on a concept of space.
right.
And when we talk about waves, we introduce time, and it's because we don't have another option. We
Right.
cannot conceive outside of space and time.
How about
We cannot do it.
Have you
So
heard of
we have this metaphor of quantum fields. It's not a field, and there are no waves until it comes into our mind. We think of a wave, but a wave, all that is a graph of indeterminacy. It's all the possibilities at the same time. And when if you go with Penrose and Hameroff, when we entangle, that is the moment of collapse. It's also the moment of creation of consciousness.
Interesting. So, okay. So, going back to our thinking about quantum mechanics always requires space and time metaphors.
We don't have another way to think.
Well, yeah, we do. We absolutely do. We have databases that are made of semantic and cognitive associations.
Yeah, but those aren't real.
What do you mean those aren't real? What does not real mean?
Not real means it's been abstracted from the physical. It's just simply
right.
But
if we want a way that kind of disregards, have you heard about the guy who wrote all the basic quantum mechanics equations without time, and they all came out just fine?
Yeah, well, Ravelli has done that.
Yeah, and the other thing that Kastrup has said is that Ravelli would be the first to admit that there's nothing physical before measurement.
No, he wouldn't.
Well,
no. Let's stick with that point for a second, because Kastrup is very dishonest when it comes to the non-physical. He will then refer to the Leggett inequalities. Okay, the Leggett inequalities. Please let me finish.
Oh man.
John Bell in his inequalities proved the non-locality of the quantum realm. Leggett proved what physics calls the non-reality, which you have to understand the definition that they use when they say non-reality. They are not saying non-physical. They're saying it has not yet taken on two measurable qualities, because that emerges out of the quantum fields and the waves. Okay, that before you have a wave collapse, you have no measurable entities, things. Okay, it's not until we have the interplay of the fields and a wave collapse, that we have something that we can measure and identify. That's all they're saying. They're not saying it's not physical.
What do you think of these Wigner's friend experiments where two different observers, they both observed the same one experiment, but saw two different truths about the same one experiment? Like whatever one guy would look at would influence what the other guy measured. And they had no way of explaining it. Like, so they said objectivity seems to be out the door, like they
I think that's
instead of observers, but still.
Let's talk about Wigner himself. He's one of my intellectual
He's the
heroes.
guy isn't he the guy that wrote about math and like mentioned
the
word miracle, like a whole
well, it was the unreasonable applicability of math, and you
probably have an encyclopedic memory of all of this stuff, and then it kind of like it makes idealism probably sound irrational to you,
No. To me, reason isn't my thing at all. I go back to what Heidegger said. What reductivism does is takes the fullness of experience and enters it into the cheap acid bath of logic. I'm not looking for reason.
Right. So you're looking for rationality? Is that what you're
No, I'm looking for truth and experience and aesthetic truth.
And so do you think of truth as like an on-off switch? It either is true or it isn't? Like, how do you think of truth?
I think of reductivism that way. Truth is
just
way too, it's way too manifold and relative to have an on-off switch.
It's a goddamn shame that Castro didn't fucking interview you, man.
I do too. We could have had a great conversation, but
you, Eclectic Media, Nicholas Gaspar are like the three who have gotten me to understand idealism more than any other personalities on YouTube. Seriously, Nicholas Gaspar. Oh my God, have you gone?
It would be an interesting conversation that I would love to have. But I don't go to the idealism part. I stick with the physical, and so does Ravelli. Does Ravelli. But let's you brought up Wigner, and he's very, very important in this also. Okay, and the way Wigner, what do you know who Henri Poincaré was? He was a French. He was a French mathematical physicist.
Academically at all.
Like, let me explain, because Wigner, you have to understand what Poincaré did to understand Wigner. Poincaré wrote, he was a mathematical physicist, late 19th century, early 20th. He wrote a paper on the four geometries. And what he proved with that is you can have entirely consistent systems, logically consistent systems with opposite suppositions, opposite assumptions. For example, Euclidean geometry assumes that parallel lines can never meet.
Right.
Okay. Riemannian geometry assumes that they will always meet. They're both internally consistent. But there's something even more interesting about them. Euclidean geometry perfectly explains how that math works within the Newtonian realm, the classical physical realm. Mm-hmm. It cannot explain relativity, the macro. Is that what
we got the idea realm, that they're little marbles and spheres, is through that Euclidean, Newtonian kind of mashup?
Well, that was Democritus with his atomism, but that's something different. Okay, Riemannian geometry perfectly explains relativity. They are totally separate.
Isn't relativity and what Rovelli is saying kind of the same thing, but just from two different angles?
Rovelli is a way of integrating relativity with quantum world.
It sounds like Rovelli is saying the physical is relative, and then
yes, absolutely, absolutely, he's saying that.
Einstein is saying that motion or whatever is
time and space are relative.
Right.
It's relative to moving objects. And it all has to do with the constancy of the speed of light. It's the weirdest thing in the universe. If, for example, if if the speed of light has 182,000. It's constant. Whether things are approaching or coming apart,
That's in a
and
vacuum. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
still going to be the same. That means that means if that's the case, time and space have to flex around that, so
Right. And that's
that if
the idea
things
of
are,
gravity.
so that there is no such thing as a universal time. No such thing. There's an infinite number of relative times, and that's what Ravelli picks up on. I mean, to say what is happening now on Mars is a senseless question. They have a separate now from our now.
Further away.
It's,
The
well, it's
light.
not. It's just a different. It's a different set of relative
Excuse me.
events.
Yeah.
So, yeah, everything is relative that way. Well, anyway, back to Wigner. Okay, so you have what you have. He shows 4 different geometries that have opposite, or conflicting assumptions, and they're internally consistent. And what he goes on to say in what he calls his epistemological law of empiricism is that for any subset of given events within that, first of all, any subset of given events within a specific boundary of time and space can have multiple explanations.
So that washes away the Wigner's friend. Like, why would he even come up with that problem?
Well,
As
that was somebody else came up with Wigner's friend. They're just referring to Wigner. But I'm telling you what Wigner actually said. He also said that all rational systems, and this is why I get away from systems and models, all of them are arbitrary and limited to time and space and a few chosen events. And if you move beyond those limits, the model will always disintegrate on you. Just like if you go from the classical world of Newton and Euclidean geometry and you expand to the cosmos, your model just blew up on you because it doesn't, you can't. And the same thing with relativity. You can't get that to go with the time, space, and chosen events of the quantum realm. So all of these are arbitrary on the time and space that you choose and what events you choose.
You're basically saying that the experiments that allege to claim that objectivity is out the door can be explained or rationalized in other ways that keep objectivity intact. Is that basically what you're saying?
No, that it limits objectivity. Okay. It is correct it's correct and usable within certain bounds. It doesn't in any way describe reality.
Yeah.
Okay. You gotta.
So I wanted to ask you what you thought about like this proposition that we can know everything there is to know about energy, its function, its behavior, and this still tells us nothing about what it feels like to be conscious. I mean, that we don't get it.
No. It won't tell you what it feels like to be conscious. No.
Well, that's the essence of the hard problem, right?
Well, the essence of the hard problem is, we cannot yet.
Well, how is there even
explain sensation?
Well, I'm not saying explain it, but like deduce what it feels like, and then a long list of experiences. How would there even be a way in principle to do that? That
brings us back to something you wrote before, which is we need another way of
talking about it. Yeah.
Of talking about it. Right. We're asking the wrong questions. We have the wrong framework. I think Penrose and Hameroff have a promising way ahead. We'll see where that goes. But right now, we don't even know the questions to ask.
You don't think what Kastrup is doing, like trying to get us to focus on getting rid of the hard problem and maybe keeping everything grounded in first-person experience, since it already is, right? I mean, what is there any scientific theory that wasn't the result of some scientists' person experience. This is the other thing I don't get about physicalism. If with physicalism we get the same world we get first person experience, then what is the need for the ontologically physical in addition to the ontologically mental? What's
Because
going on?
that's what the world is. What we have
Well, that's a claim.
consciousness,
That's a claim.
our consciousness developed to understand our surroundings.
We have no empirical evidence of the objective physical world.
But I'm not. You're stuck in the subject-object metaphysics again.
No. I'm just making a tacit claim about physicality that you seem to want to keep on the board. Or on
we have it through experience. All that matters is fundamental experience.
That falls under a mind only.
No, it doesn't. Absolutely not. No.
I'm stuttering here because yes, it absolutely does. All qualities fall under the scope.
Qualities, but we're not talking about qualities.
You just said that if you're talking about the physical as we feel it and experience it. Well, what is experience other than qualities? I don't understand.
No. One of
the comments you made was
again totally misunderstood what I said.
Well, one of the comments you made, and I erased our thing because I was unhappy with. I use YouTube like an Etch-a-Sketch. If you haven't already noticed, I'll make some comments and get in a big tiff, and then I just go and erase it because I'm just so unhappy with how everything went, And like one of the things you said that was kind of interesting to me, and it got me thinking maybe what his intuition is he's wanting to kind of point us in another direction with this energy thing because you'll probably deny this, but in the 90s there was a new age movement that claimed that we're all light beings made of energy. And I was like, I wonder if he's kind of going towards that again. Or then you also said qualities exist, but they exist with the physical world. They don't necessarily exist only as mental aspects. And then I was like, well, what does that mean? Does that mean the rock? There's something it feels like to be the rock? What does it mean for a quality to be in the world and also in our mind? And why can't it just be in mind and we call it good? So that's kind of my question.
Okay. To just say it's all just in the mind.
As a category, not in my mind alone or your mind alone.
I know, I understand. In the cosmic mind. Remember?
See, I don't like that term cosmic mind. That sounds too much like God. And I'm a total atheist. Even though but
you got to, my good friend Craig Reed interviewed him. And on that interview, Kastrup explicitly said you can think of the cosmic mind as God.
Well, yeah, and he was using the word God like colloquially, how every religion, you know what I mean? Like they're pointing to the same one thing, and the way he puts it is religion. The reason there's so many different factions is because they're obsessed at whose finger is doing the pointing instead of what the finger is pointing at, and I totally agree with that. And I think that this is what makes religion kind of a wash in today's world because they're not getting at what we're actually trying to do here. We're trying to figure out what everything is pointing at. And that's what I find interesting about idealism. It does seem to be tracking with some things that are converging. What we're finding out in neuroscience, what we're finding out with physics, and what we're finding out in philosophy. Philosophy has kind of reached a dead end, and like everybody's searching for what the ontology of subjectivity is. And no physical model can account for that.
No, that's because it's the wrong question. You're right. Philosophy has reached a dead end because it's asking wrong questions like that.
And that bums me out.
I couldn't agree more. And that's why we need a different way of thinking about these things. And the first danger I said was that we can't revert back to metaphysics. It was an error that led to the death of philosophy.
The physical?
What?
Don't metaphysics require the physical to presuppose the physical? Metaphysics, in order to even be a conceptual narrative, seems to have to presuppose the physical ontologically, doesn't it? Like when we say,
yes, it does. It breaks it down into physics and metaphysics. That's what it does.
Say, consciousness is not something that's material. It's not something you can hold. And I'm like, okay, but
doesn't mean it's not physical though.
No. And so then I say, well, what is the material? You can say it's immaterial all you want, but you've never explained what the material is. And this is a problem.
We can explain what the material is.
Yeah, but the claims that always come out are always about behavior. They're not about what essence is. There's no way to manifest the essence of what physicality There's no way to rationalize what physicality and materiality are without begging the question of them.
Well, first
There's
of all,
just no way.
you've got to separate physicality and materiality. Material
Well,
is
even if we just stick with
is an
physicality,
emergence out of physicality.
these are,
Physicality does not depend on material. It's
don't
pre-material.
don't you agree that physicality is what shows up on the dashboard? So when you
No.
say that the
Well,
world is
no,
physical,
no, no,
basically you're
no,
saying the
no,
world is the
no,
dashboard, right?
no, 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 no. No, you didn't listen to what I said
Physicality doesn't
before.
show up on the dashboard.
Physicality exists way beyond
How do we
that
know that
dashboard.
though?
That dashboard
How do
is
we know
simply a
that?
reduction.
How do we know that it
We
exists
know
way beyond
that through the
dashboard?
odd
All we
behavior
have
of
is
quantum mechanics.
what's that?
We know it through the very odd behavior of quantum mechanics.
Yeah, but no, that quantum mechanics has taken naive realism or physical realism off the table.
No, it blew up naive realism. Yes,
And what
absolutely,
about
that's
physical
true.
realism? Physical
What?
realism. Physical realism is gone too. It's like the next table.
Not yeah, but I'm
Like
I
physicalism of any
I
kind,
am a non-reductive physicalist.
which is a property dualist, right? I mean,
No, absolutely not. That's
you,
the fundamental difference that I'm having a hard time getting across to you.
and then I
The
just, so
dualism is
the
material
non-reductive
immaterial, which I don't believe even that's just that's a metaphysical error. The difference is reality as it is on the dashboard is how we reduce it so that we can get some sort of order that we can manipulate. It's practical versus reality as it really is, which is what quantum mechanics has failed to interpret because we can't conceive it. We know it's there. We see the odd results. We can't grasp it. It's reality, it's physicality, but beyond the dashboard. The dashboard does not contain all of physical reality. It's a huge reduction and projection.
and this
It's
is what
not physical reality.
you're saying things that I already know, and
Yeah,
you're not
but the
telling me what
difference is we don't need to say
how
that
you
it's
can
not
know.
real.
How you're not telling me how you can know of something that's ontologically distinct from the mental without begging the question of it.
Yes, I can.
How?
I only know it through the mental. I don't know it. I cannot know something because you're mistaking the
So
tool
you're adding it to the mental that you already get, right?
I'm not adding it to the mental. It's all part of that same entangled process. I go more toward the Penrose Hammeroff. It's an entanglement. It's a physical entanglement
So
between.
if physical entangles with the mental, in what way is it?
No, the
distinct
mental
from
is
the
physical. The mental is an emergence within the physical.
So they're ontologically the same.
I wouldn't even use that term. I would say that everything in the universe is quantum. The universe consists of quantum events. One of those is when our brains, whatever we have, entangled. It's a way of entanglement. It's a way of entanglement.
One more thing I wanted to address, because I noticed I don't want to be offensive at all, but I noticed you said it once at the Metacastra forum and once on one of your videos. You said something about just a overactive default mode that you have. You can't quiet your mind, and I'm the same way. Hold on. Let me finish this though. This is something I wanted you to try to do to try to grasp what Kastrup is talking about when he says raw consciousness. Because it's not the metacognitive aspect of it. It's not the self-aware aspect of it. It's the felt qualitative aspect that's there regardless of sense data. And this is the other reason why I said, have you ever been in a sensory deprivation tank? I wanted you to get an idea that even in the absence of all sense data, there still feels like something to be in that senseless state.
Yes, but that's coming in through sense data also.
No.
Yeah, you have internal senses. You have internal senses that come in through nerves. It's electrical impulse.
This isn't internal stuff. This is something else. This is like an observer that's looking at you in the mirror. That's what it feels like to me. Like it almost feels like somebody's staring at me when I do the astral projection. I get to this point where it feels like someone's sitting on my chest, and that's actually my a part of me detaching from another part of me. You know, it sounds dualistic, but it's not. It's
No, that is
both in my mind or
dualistic.
in my mind. Like your body is in your mind. Your mind isn't in your
There's
body.
nothing in that though that would tell me the consciousness
So
isn't.
what I want to finish this is, you said I've never been aware of being aware. I've never been aware of my consciousness. And to me,
No, I don't understand my consciousness. I have metacognitive abilities just like every other human being does.
One thing I wanted you to try to do, and you can do it whenever you want, like you don't have to do it now, is just take your own pulse and try to pay attention to who's paying attention to that. That will kind of get you, without doing anything too dangerous. It'll get you where you need to be to kind of get at what Kastrup is talking about when he says phenomenal consciousness. And phenomenal consciousness is not something that's reducible. It's not reducible to the physical, not at all.
But well, it certainly isn't us, because you cut off the energy and it goes away. We know of no consciousness that doesn't rely on energy.
Everything we know about the physical is a bunch of abstract semantic language.
No. We abstract from it, but our initial experience is not abstract. It's
what you're doing is you're taking the dashboard metaphor to literally be true.
No, absolutely not. No. That is again a misstatement of what I've said.
Like, not the whole idea of something being non-reductive to me is just that means a word shell game. Like, can I explain to you what it seems like to me that you're doing?
Oh yeah, sure.
So this is what physicality is. This is my little floss man, and you go like this. You take it and you go like this. You put physicality right here, and then you got three shells, three different meanings of what it means to be physical, and you're moving them around, and I'm looking.
Tell me the three. What are the three different ones?
The one is the ontologically distinct physical, like physics talks about it, without qualities, completely devoid of qualities, only describable in terms of quantity. That's one. And then you talk about physicality.
Wait, I've never said that one though.
Hold on. That's the one that's implied or inferred through some of the language you use. My mind goes there.
No.
Can I finish the other two shells?
Yeah.
And the other shell is an appeal to sense data, like concreteness, the feltness of the world. That's another shell that you put the word physical under, that I chase. And then the third one is this insistence that there's something physical in anything in the quantum realm. There's not. There just isn't.
Well, then, but there's energy, and energy is physical.
You've got these three physicals running around, and I'm chasing them because I'm a dumbass, and you got me believing that.
Well, one of them doesn't even count.
And the whole problem, Jeff, is I've never once heard an actual objection from you of the analytical idealism model. I've heard objections to straw mans of it, to sophisticated sounding explanations of what you think it is, but you've never steel manned it. You've never
tell me where I go wrong.
That is just too voluminous for me to sit here and try to just like point to something. The shell game that happens with non-reductive dualism is so semantically subterfugistic, if that's even a word.
I would say the semantic trick is when you try to say that energy isn't physical. That's a semantic trick. It just simply is false.
I don't know what energy is. I don't know what the ontology of energy is, because nobody knows what energy is. This is
but we know it's physical.
Energy is a name. Look, when you say
no, it's not a name. It is not.
It is.
See, that's your semantic trick right there.
Hold on.
To take something that's that powers the universe and say it's just a semantic trick. It's not.
Can I give you a concrete example of what I'm talking about? What I hear when you say consciousness.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So this is what I hear. The flame is combustion. The storm is the thunder and lightning.
No, I'm not saying that at all.
Well, you literally are saying that. It's a semantically meaningless thing to say that.
No, it isn't.
Energy. I don't identify with energy. I identify with consciousness.
Well, I would say that's a myopia on your part.
That's not a myopia. I know what energy from an energized system feels like. I know what it feels like to get electrocuted. I know what it feels like to mourn the loss of a relative who was struck by lightning. Mm-hmm. I know all of that about energy.
And it's all from energy. It's real. It is real.
look, I understand that energy shows up looking real. Everything on the dashboard is real to
No, no,
us.
no, 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 no. Forget the dashboard because I'm not on the dashboard.
Energy is a behavior of a process we see.
What process? What process and how is it behaving?
It's the energy is that energy, for all we know, is the excitation of that quantum field. That's all it is, and it shows up to us as an energized system. You know what I'm saying? But the quantum field is more primary. That immaterial realm is more primary, and when it gets plugged,
you've conflated immaterial with non-physical again. That's the problem. You keep doing that. Immaterial does not mean non-physical.
To me, that's
matter doesn't happen until the Higgs field interacts.
You don't understand that immaterial means non-physical. It literally means that. Like, what else does material mean?
Yes, but there is a physicality that's not material.
How?
I just told you how. Material doesn't arise until the Higgs boson, the Higgs field interacts with another field. Now we have mass. For the first time, we have mass. But there is the physical world of those quantum fields before the interplay of it's still physical.
This is why I wish
the bottom layer of physicality that we know. This is
why I wish Kastrup would just interview you guys.
I wish he would too. Ask him.
I know. I tried. I got on Twitter and asked him, but he just ignored me. You know what I mean? I'm a nobody.
I'm telling you why. Because his philosophy is a mess, and he knows it.
Not really. What he has publicly declared is that he doesn't do projection. Like, if there's some pissed off atheist who had a shitty literalist biblical upbringing and is just out to like project a bunch of religious nonsense into the basic ontology. He doesn't do that. He doesn't do pissing contests. He doesn't do that, and he doesn't.
He doesn't do anything with somebody who can substantially challenge him. There isn't any time that he exposes himself to substantive challenge. He just doesn't.
Well, can you imagine trying to just get out there in front of every single person who's got a challenge against idealism? Could you imagine?
Well, the thing is, he has had
untenable that would be. I mean,
a large number of his own followers urging him to discuss this with me.
Yeah.
And he just simply sidesteps it. He gave me an excuse.
He doesn't even have this much time. Like you're
no.
He has the time.
Let me finish. The excuse he gave me through his secretary was that he only from now on is going to.
That wasn't his secretary. That's the moderator of the Metacastro forum.
No. I talked to his secretary. This was not through the forum. Let me finish, please.
All right.
What she said was that he's only going to focus on venues with a lot of exposure, and since then he has gone on more than a few
with less than
channels with fewer views than my Kastrup videos have had.
Dude, I got 0 subscribers on this channel. I got a couple ghost puppet channels.
And I'm not talking about subscribers. I'm talking about views.
Right.
Okay. I've got couple thousand views on the videos, and I've got a lot more hits on the blog, on the transcripts.
This is why I was trying to turn you on to the Tim Frake, the Tim Freak or Frake interview. And also another good one is the T-Jump interview, because T-Jump just absolutely refused to even analyze. So, this is the other thing. So you haven't steel-manned idealism, and you haven't analyzed it on its own set of principles.
But I have. I did in the videos. I did. I fairly stated.
Look, there's some guys.
I went from his exact words. I quoted. I played the video of him speaking.
I'm trying to get it across to you that you haven't. You've been begging the question of physicalism in your.
No, I haven't. No, I have not.
Idealism.
You have been playing the game by fiat, insisting that energy is not physical. That's a non-starter.
What does that even mean? What does energy is physical even mean? Explain to me what that means. That
it is the primary force in the universe.
Dude, what does it mean that it's physical?
It means it exists as as physicality. It is a force that out of which everything you
Okay,
perceive
listen to me.
emerges. Everything emerges out of energy.
I wouldn't even. I don't. Idealism doesn't even disagree with what you just said about energy.
Oh,
'Cause
it does. No, 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 no. That again, you are
You're taking
Kastrup by definition.
a behavioral claim, and then equating it to be the essence.
No.
Literally,
you were not able to demonstrate the behavior. I'm not talking about any behavior at all.
Saying that energy is physical is semantically meaningless unless you.
No, it's not. It is not. If you can attach a word to something that is experiential, that isn't semantically meaningless.
Then it's mental.
I experience it through mentality. I'm not experiencing mentality.
Yeah, this is just so look, idealism does not disagree. It does not move any of our scientific knowledge. You understand that, right?
No, it distorts it. It distorts it. And I documented where he does distort it.
No, it does not. It puts it into a different context.
It denies that. It denies physicality at the quantum level.
One of the things, this is the other thing Kastrup has declared he does not do. He does not debate people who adhere to scientism, which is the combination of an ontology and facts.
No. I don't adhere to scientism. What I was saying,
energy. I mean, what is that? Come on.
What is energy? It's the primary force of the universe.
When you infer a behavior to be an essence.
I'm not inferring any behavior.
Energy is a behavior we
observe. It's not in a behavior. It's not a behavior.
Not an entity either. It's not.
No, it's a force. It's a force. The physicality is forces and entities.
What is
energy and matter? And they're interchangeable. You do know of E equals mc squared, right?
Well, there's gravity. Idealism doesn't deny gravity, does it?
How is that relevant to this conversation?
Because it doesn't deny any forces. Idealism is not a scientific knowledge claim. It's a claim about knowability. And this is why
it doesn't know anything. It's merely metaphysical assertion. There's no reason to accept it.
Debatable. I think that we have epistemological idealism in every ontological model.
I would say you're wrong.
How are we not? So epistemology, tell me if I'm right or I'm wrong about this. Epistemology is just a fancy word for how we know what we know, right?
That's right. And not every epistemology is a model.
If you start off, let's call it an ontology. If you start off with a physicalist ontology, that's in your mind, right?
But you keep repeating your mind. You're using your mind. That's right. You're using your mind to experience something that isn't a mind.
No. What I'm saying is that every ontology starts off in mind, though, right? Epistemologically.
No, not under Penrose-Hameroff. It doesn't. No.
Well, now what you just
it starts in the entanglement.
What you just said, you thought about, that was in your mind, right?
I do think of things that are in my mind, but that is not what the question was.
So when you say
my experience is not confined to my mind. My experience is not confined to mind.
This is what I'm trying to pin down with you. What do you mean your experience is not confined to mind? What does that even mean? Come on.
What does it mean is that I am experiencing something that is not my mind. I'm experiencing it through my mind, but it is not my mind that I'm experiencing at that moment.
It's not your mind.
I can experience my mind through metacognition, but that's not the normal way of being.
If it's not your mind, then how can you even know about it?
I know about it through my mind because my senses are telling my mind about it. My senses are telling my mind, here's what I'm sensing on the outside. Try to make sense of it now. That's what's happening. It's not. It doesn't originate in my mind.
How do you know?
Because I can't write a Shakespeare play.
That's not what they're saying.
No, that is what that means. I also cannot imagine the huge variety of what I experience.
Jeff, this is the problem, is that you won't steal man the idealistic ontology. You won't steal man analytical idealism. You won't analyze its premises based on its
But
own.
I have. That's the thing. You
No.
keep saying these things,
Well, okay.
but they're
Let's
not
try to do it
true.
right now. Do it right now. Steelman the analytical idealism model.
Okay, the analytical idealism model says consciousness is fundamental. That's how we know things. It's the and because it's the way we know things, it's the only thing we can imagine. So it's not a leap to say that it's the ontological primitive that explains everything else, just like it explains the world to us.
So here's the way. I remember I told you this too, this imaginary scenario, and you had a bone to pick with it, and I wanted to kind of revisit that because I think
Okay.
maybe through an imaginary scenario you can get me to where you're
Okay.
seeing something
Let's try it.
So the imaginary scenario is you and I, the guy who's a non-reductive physicalist, and the guy who thinks he's an idealist but isn't sure. That's me. We're standing on a beach and we're looking at the horizon. Now, I would assume that beyond the horizon is simply more of the same kind of experience. You would assume that there's simply more of the same kind of experience plus this physical realm.
No. I don't think that describes it at all. That kind of experience is the physical realm. When we're both standing there looking out from the beach at the horizon,
we describe it as a physical
we
realm.
are
And I'm saying
in some way experiencing the physical realm.
We can describe it as a epistemically physical realm all you want. That's fine. I'm okay with that. Because that's actually.
But there isn't anything beyond the physical realm. I have no reason to think that there's anything beyond the physical realm.
The horizon?
No, the plenty behind the horizon. I don't know what it is because I can't see there. But there's plenty behind the horizon, but it's still physical, just like what I'm experiencing.
All an idealist is doing is presuming that there's more of the same kind of stuff.
Why?
Beyond the horizon.
Why would I make that assumption?
Because you're doing it too when you add.
No, I'm not. I'm saying beyond the dashboard, there's a reality I can't describe. I can see information coming from it that makes no sense from the dashboard point of view.
So you can't even rationalize that realm that's outside the dashboard.
Rationalize it? No, because it's irrational. I mean, that's what's Ravelli's point. It's irrational.
So okay, I agree. Physicality is totally irrational as an
which is counter to mind, which tries to reason.
No, well, so here's the thing. So I see physicalism as an extra category of being on top of the only category of being we know for sure.
But and I say that's a false statement.
How so?
We know that we know of existence doesn't mean we understand it.
I didn't say existence. I said no.
I know. But what I'm saying is that's what's at play here. Yeah, I know I'm conscious, but I know more than I'm conscious. I know I'm conscious of something else. I'm conscious of something else. And otherwise there's no point to consciousness.
You're conscious of the meaning that's just out there and the purpose that's just implicit in the world. And it's constant.
I don't know of any meaning implicit in the world.
Anything you look at has meaning. Everything.
I don't know that.
You're steeped in meaning constantly. It means something for things to not mean something, doesn't it? Right?
I can think about meanings, but I don't. If I get an electric shock, I don't think it meant anything. It's just I got an electric shock.
Right. I would say the same thing. I mean, electrical shock is an electrical shock. I've been shocked.
And when quantum foam relates with each other, different events in chaotic ways, I don't know that there's any meaning to that at all. I only determine meaning in relation to between me and a small subsystem. There I can determine meaning, but in a world there are different small subset events, and that's what, if you go back to Ravelli, it's those relations that give us some sense of space and time and causality, which if you Yeah, and that's only through blurring because we focus on such a tiny, tiny subset.
Right.
With the rest of the world the rest of the universe blurred out. But if in fact we expand our field of vision, that what we perceived as a subsystem wasn't really, and it goes right back into the chaos of the cosmic foam, and there is no time space or causality. And at that point there's no meaning because I don't have a relationship to
Right.
anything at that point.
Right.
Meaning only arises, it emerges out of the blurring and that small subset of events.
So
But you go back to the cosmic foam. I have
what
no
got
reason to
you into
see meaning.
motorcycles? What got
What?
you into motorcycles?
Oh, my
Like since you were a little
adrenaline.
kid, or
I didn't do it as a little kid. I did it. I've been riding a long time, but not as a kid. I started as an adult.
me too. I was 21.
It's just I'm an adrenaline junkie. I also did martial arts for a long time. I've been in way too many fights in my life. I don't
Yeah.
anymore. I'm 69 now. I'm
Um,
even considering maybe not. At some point, my son keeps telling me, "Dad, you're too old to be out there going 140 miles an hour on a sport bike." But I love motorcycles. Like the first time I got on one, I was hooked. I was immediately
right.
just hooked.
I liked what you said. You're messing with some fundamental forces with,
Yeah.
balance, and it kind of gets you plugged into something that is more. See, I think
It's zen
you
at
ever heard
130 miles an hour.
one of my favorite chapters in the book Idea of the World is there's a chapter called uh, it's called Materialism as Neurotic Ego Defense Mechanism. It's kind of a trite, kind of like hubristic mocking of why people just cling to materialism and physicalism. And in it, he talked about the meaning maintenance model. And I think what a lot of guys who cling to physicalism and just anti-idealism, what their main thing that they hold to for meaning maintenance is like discernibility, getting an answer. They want an answer. You know what I mean?
Yes, I agree with that.
That's what
And
I
I
see in you.
don't. I don't. There's too many things we can't answer. I don't push for
Right,
an answer. And I see
but
idealism
you're
as
still
as
curious.
that step back into trying to answer the unanswerable.
I do.
That is at core my
See,
objection to idealism.
oh,
It's posing an answer to the unanswerable.
the other
It's
thing
a retreat to metaphysics.
the other thing I wanted to tell you, besides the alarming, I kind of agree with you that some of it is. I'm one of its number one fanboys. First of all, I run around arguing with people all over YouTube, so
Yes, I've
I feel
noticed.
I feel like I'm one of these like cult guys, that you're talking about. But I don't
Yeah.
really feel like I'm an idealist. I feel like I don't know what I am. You know what I mean?
But
Like I don't.
see, and part of what drives you is the same that drives me, but I don't go to the idealism. I'm really happy with the world being mysterious and unanswerable. I'm
Me
more
too.
than happy. I like it that way.
Well, the meaning.
How boring would it be to live in a world that can be understood through mathematical formulas? Well,
Right.
I think of a Rolling Stones. There was a Rolling Stones song that back in the day when they were at their height. I mean, they really at the best of their. It was like the words were, "The sunshine bores the daylights out of me, chasing shadows, moonlight mystery." I don't like the light of the Enlightenment. I like the shadows and the moonlight mystery. That's
Yeah.
what life is about. I don't want final answers, and that is probably at core why I reject all metaphysics, because all metaphysics is an attempt to put, to drown out the mystery with the glaring of light, but it's always false because it's always just an assertion, an ungrounded assertion. Reality itself is mysterious, it's manifold, and that's what calls. It's that
What do
mystery that should be calling us,
what do
not
you
mathematical formulas.
what do you have to say to all the people though who it seems like it's changed their life? It changed mine. I'll be honest. It
Yeah,
changed.
so did EST in the '80s, and I
I
mean, there's
guess
a lot of stuff like that.
I'm not.
I get real
I'm not
skeptical of
finished.
stuff that changes
I'm not
people's
look. I'm
lives.
not finished. I'm not finished being in the oven yet. I'm I hope to get where you are someday, having read a whole bunch of stuff. And don't you know, like a bunch of different languages and stuff? I saw that you're like trilingual or something.
6.
6.
That's why
that's gotta do
when I
something
say I'm a
big,
simple
you know?
semi-literate biker, semi-literate is an exaggeration. There's about 3,000 written languages in the world.
Right.
I can only read 6 of them.
I see. Yeah. So, I guess, damn, I can only wish that Kastrup would interview you, you know?
Well, keep the pressure on him. You and your friends, keep the pressure on him. It doesn't even need to be a debate.
I
just a
wanted to
discussion like we're having.
Can we do this again? Like maybe on a so that I can not work on you, but so you could work on me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, let's do it again. I think we're at an hour 40 right now, which is way past anybody's attention span. Like yeah, I'm serious. Goes fast, but yeah, let's do it again. Let's talk through email. We'll arrange it.
All right. I appreciate it, Jeff, man, and I'm serious. I apologize if I was like a smirk. My girlfriend tells me she hates it. I smirk and like have a like pompous look on my face. I didn't mean it to be that way. That's just my
Ken. I took no offense at anything. I enjoy this. Okay.
Cool, man. Thank you.
Good. Hey, thanks for being here.
I'm so grateful for you for even taking the time, man. Because I don't know as much as you. It's clear, you know. And I say this to Eclectic Media all the time too. He's a master debater and a cunning linguist also. And, you know.
I first heard that one my freshman year in college.
Yeah, right on. Well, I appreciate it, and like you know, I'll touch base with you again, like maybe in a couple weeks or whatever you say. You know
No, it's whenever you say, whenever you're comfortable. I like doing these things, so just let me know. Keep the pressure on Kastrup. We need to talk.
I'll go on Twitter right now. I have another Twitter handle like that I use for that I talk to you with too. It's the picture of the family all mixed up race and all that. That's me. When I was a kid, I don't know if you remember. You engage so many people.
God, thousands, literally thousands.
That's something else I wanted to talk to you about. And I guess we could do it later. Is like, are you finding yourself kind of spending too much time online? I do. I can't.
I've cut way back now. Good. Mostly because I'm writing. You know, and I mean that's what I'm supposed to be doing is writing. I like and I play my guitar. I got to do that at least 2 hours a day. Yeah. So
I love reading your stuff.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But you know, that's how I spend. Actually, I spend a lot less time. The only thing I go on is Twitter. It's the only social media I've got. I don't go on Facebook or anything else. And I spend far less time on Twitter than people think.
Okay. Yeah, because I notice I mean, I don't know. I can kind of guess without trying to say what your politics are. I think they're aligned with what mine are. And you're in Indiana. I have a brother in Fort Wayne, Dutch family, Spoolhoff. He's like one of the city zoning committee planners or something. They live in Fort Wayne. And so that's kind of in that ballpark of where you live.
Yeah, I'm in Carmel, which is
state.
It's a red state, but I'm in Carmel, which is different. Okay, it's it is the most upscale suburb of. It's around Indianapolis.
Okay.
Everybody here is educated. You couldn't afford to live here if you weren't.
Kind of like blue chips or blue bloods or whatever.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff like that. But I am certainly not attuned to the red state kind of stuff. I'm certainly no Republican, although oddly enough, there was a time in my life when I was, but then there was a time in my life when I was a Christian too. Those are long in the past. No, politically right now, I see the Democrats as incompetent and the Republicans as pure evil.
Damn. Wow. Yeah. So see, this is another thing I wanted to talk to you about is how bummed I am that we can't talk to each other because I love Afro NRX and he's a neo-reactionary. He's like the exact opposite of me. I'm like a bleeding heart liberal, this, that, and the other.
Yeah, he's a smart guy though.
Even this is something that trips me out about idealism is that it's apolitical. So it kind of gives you a way to talk to these guys on the other side of the spectrum. And for a little while, can I just tell you real quick before we take off? What I thought Kastrup was doing was congregating white boys to try to put another idea in their head to get them to kind of identify with other people and just trying to focus on white boys. Because if you look at his just look at the tome of interviews. It's almost all white males, and they're all
It
kind of
is.
all over the board as far as politics. And there's a few like white nationalists that are pretty vocal in his community, and a few far right libertarians, and it blows my mind that we could all talk about something we agree on and just be totally different politically. That blows my mind, because you don't hear about
I know what you mean.
news. You hear that the right and the left are at each other's throats, but I love these guys that are idealists who are also happen to be race realists and maybe white nationalists, or whatever. I mean, it's unfortunate. I think that whole like race thing is a young man's game, man. As you age, you probably would agree with this.
Yeah.
As you age, you kind of you're like, come on, we're all the same, dude.
Well, we are all the same, but I knew that way back then. Before I was anything else, I was a musician.
Oh,
I played blues and R&B and jazz. I was often the only white guy in the place.
Right.
Yeah, race means absolutely nothing. There's no racial differences.
It's a control mechanism.
Yeah, I don't.
That's like religion, like kind of.
Yeah.
I don't know. So yeah.
Well, let's get back to me with your availability. We'll do this again soon. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Ken.
Thank you.
Talk to you. Bye.
All right. Bye.